the music. You will be inspired to think higher, realize your gift. Join the music and Michelle, Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers. It's the music of music.
Hello to everybody. It is the Muses Behind the Music, and I am your host, Michelle Fallon. So glad that you all could join us this evening. So listen, I need you to do a couple of things. Go on ahead and allow StreamYard to have some accessibility to your Facebook account. If you are watching through Facebook Muses Behind the Music, or maybe through my personal page, or however it is that you are seeing us when you are seeing us, or if you're on YouTube, make sure that you're making comments, you're joining in the conversation, because I have a very incredible, phenomenal woman who is with us today, a well-known conductor, Maestra of the stage. And I'm just excited to share her story and for her to share her story with all of us and what it is that we can glean from it and move on and become better people, become better musicians, become better friends, and whatever those other titles are through the walk of life that she has led. Also, will you kindly please like, share, love? Somebody needs to hear this. And so please go on ahead and get it out to all the people that you know, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because the Muses Behind the Music, we can't exist without your help. And I really am appreciative. Today, whenever you're seeing it, my guest is Elena Sharkova. And she is a Russian-American conductor born in St. Petersburg, receiving rigorous professional training as a pianist since the age of 6. You know, I always love when I'm hearing the story of musicians, and we're always starting at very tender ages in this thing, but we never let it go. I guess that's when it's been birthed in us. She holds a bachelor's degree in music education and piano, and a graduate degree in conducting from the famed Rimsky-Korsakov State Conservatory. Ms. Sharkova began her career as a professional ensemble singer in one of Russia's premier choirs, and she toured extensively before she ended up moving to the United States in 1993, pursuing a second conducting degree and career in academia. Today, I know that you have probably heard of her ensemble called the Conductor Singers. It's a youth ensemble. They are phenomenal out in the Silicon Valley. And she's doing so much more than just being the director of this ensemble, because she is quite sought after as an educator, as a professional musician on the music circuit, at universities, organizations, you name it. She's being called and pulled not only in the States, but across to various countries as well. Her latest engagements have been with the BBC Singers in Glasgow and London, Miami-based Grammy-nominated Seraphic Fire, a slew of other Grammy award-winning artists that she has been in collaborations and partnerships with. And she's the artistic director over that ensemble. I'm just excited to have her and to talk so much about her life and what it is that she has done, is doing, and plans on doing as she continues to make her mark in this world. Will you kindly welcome our guest, Elena Sharkova. Hello, my friend.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So glad that you are here. I really am. You know, I am a strong proponent of the support of female conductors, because we very rarely see representation of us on main stages. And there's just so many of us who are doing it, but the opportunities just haven't landed into so many people's laps. So, I mean, for all the work, you work with such great excellence and poise and energy, as I was watching so many of the YouTube videos of you. And I know that those children that you work with are just blessed to have you, as we are to have you on the show. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you.
Tell us, say it again.
Thank you for this very kind introduction.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. This is your introduction. All I did was read this thing. This thing is amazing. I didn't even get to read all of it, but it is just amazing at the things that you have accomplished already. And you are still young, and there's still so much left to be done. I love the fact that, you know, you come from this background of a very young, tender age of studying music. Was that forced upon you, or was that a part of what you decided, I really want to do this, and you shared this with your parents?
Not really. Well, my story, I think, is very usual for the time and that I was growing up in Russia in the 70s, but it is unusual for this country. When I was little, every child had to go to a nursery school, like preschool, right? And there was a social worker in every preschool who was supposed to watch the children and in 3, 4, 5, 6, and sort of like decide what it is the best that what is their predisposition. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be mathematicians? Are they going to be the gymnasts, figure skaters, or musicians? Because this is how Russia was great, right? Through all of these things. And you know, I was also very lucky that at that point, every kid in every preschool had music every day. You know, gymnastics every day, art every day. It was not always on the greatest level, but it was very consistent because such was the decision of the government. Yeah. And so what happened to me, the story goes that I was crying a lot at singing classes. And my teacher said, you know, she's okay when the music is a major, but when it's a natural minor, she always cries. And so the social worker, I think, just kind of stuck to that the kid is crying at natural minor. And so one day I came home with this little note, you know, pinned to my sweater that said, you know, this child can be trained into a musician because she's very sensitive to music. And so my grandmother, who was raising me, she actually said something very interesting much later in my life. She said that I had like a little skin condition that always made me itch, and I was always crying anyway. They just decided I was crying at minor. But I liked the music, and the very first musical experience, I think instrumentally, was that they bought me a little piano, like a baby piano that had black keys actually, you know, just painted on the white. There was not like a black key, and I was constantly banging on it. And so then what happens is your parents are okay with that, and so you buy a piano for your kid, or whatever, violin, whatever instrument you decide, and whatever instrument you decide, and practically all the education is free. Yeah. So I was receiving up to 8 hours of music lessons for free a week. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And so, but of course, as any kid, I've started playing this piano that they bought me. And, you know, every spring I would be saying, I'm done, you know, I'm going to do something else. But I was dancing also. I was doing figure skating and gymnastics like a good Russian girl. Mm-hmm. But, you know, every time I would want to quit, my parents would say, no, you're not quitting. We bought you a piano. Mm-hmm. You know, they actually had to sell the house. Had
amazing support.
Yeah, and you know, and then again, the way we were trained at the time wasn't like, oh, would you like to play this piece, or how do you feel about scales? It's like, no, you're playing. There is an exam. The government is paying. This is you're not quitting. And so what it came to, that I just decided to, I wanted to be a linguist. I really, really loved language. Still, absolutely, just adore languages. Always want to do something about languages, which I happen to be doing anyway, right? Being a choral
Right.
director. Yes, but my parents just said no. It's music, and so that's how
How
it all
many
happened.
languages do you speak, Elena?
Well, I used to say I speak three because my Italian was on par with my English when I moved to the States. But I concentrated so much on the English that my Italian is kind of like, I need a
It's
couple of pizzas and some Chianti and Italy to bring it back. But it
bring it
has to be authentic.
I received Bring Me With You when you do the
Yes.
Chianti and the pizzas in Italy, specifically in Italy. That's fantastic, though.
Specifically,
So I love it. What drew you into conducting? So why not stick with the piano?
right. So, gosh, it's just another thing. Russians are very cruel in the sense that, for instance, I think I would have liked to dance more, but
Mhm.
they if you want to really be trained as a ballerina to be professionally ballerina, they just like literally they invited my mom to come with me, and they looked at my mom's hips and they said, "You will be too big for anybody to lift you." So if we were to invest in you as the government, we're going to invest into the music part.
Wow.
But the reason I did not decide to be a pianist and was exactly that my flexibility, my agility would have never been on a level of a professional concert pianist. So there
Hmm.
was no reason. But another thing was that I was preparing for my exams to go to for my first bachelor degree, and I was spending in a very, very hot room, spending hours and hours and hours practicing piano. And at a certain point, I thought, oh my gosh, this is what my life is going to be. A hot room and a block box, and I will be alone. But I was too much of a social person, and so
Yeah.
I decided to go into music ed because
Yes.
there was choir, and choir was life since I was 6 years old.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny? I've told this to people many times before that when I was 9, my piano was my first instrument. So when I was 9, my dad took me to Juilliard, and I got accepted into the pre-college program for
Oh,
talented and gifted artists. And I at that moment said no, because as much as I loved practicing, like I was in there practicing 8, 10 hours. I missed homework assignments because I was busy practicing. Like it was all about the music for me. But I knew at that moment I did not want to be by myself. Plus
yeah,
other reasons,
exactly.
and yeah, I'm a sociable person as well, but I did not want that thing that I was seeing happening. And I don't know how I knew at such a young age that I see something that just doesn't align with my core, but I knew it. And I'm grateful. I have no regrets. Now, my dad still has regrets about that. As much as has happened in my life, he still talks about that one particular point. You know what I found interesting though, in this very moment as you were speaking, and tell me what you think about this and the take. I feel like the dance world is the only it tells people exactly what they need to hear, and sometimes it might be kind of harsh, but they do it without any kind of like, listen, this is not going to be for you, because they have very particular criteria of getting in the music world. We're a lot more generous and gracious towards people, and some folk who are just not talented, we still encourage them like, oh baby, you are good, so we're going to keep working on that. Do you find that to be true? Like you said, they told you no, hereditary genes show that you're not. If I go and say that, people will think I'm quelching their dreams about
Yeah,
no.
I know. Honestly, this is something that I was always a little bit I don't want to say question. It was questioning, but I was really curious why it's so different from where I come from, where the competition is so huge to get into master's and even bachelor's degrees in music, and it's much more direct. You don't have it, and you'll never have it. To
Right.
say this to say it to a kid who's 14 years old, maybe that is not right. But maybe when you are going for your bachelor's, for your master's at 20, yeah, maybe it's the right. We do it very early in Russia. So I got my bachelor's at 18.
Wow.
So
Okay.
so you finish your high school and you're receiving an education. It's sort of like a special school, but you actually go and you work at 19.
Wow.
Or unless you go directly to get 2 more degrees, which is what conservatory really is. It's 5 years of grad school. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then I had 2 more at Western Michigan. So I was in school for a
Wow.
while.
Well, you said you wanted to pursue the academia.
Yeah, I wanted to pursue an academia, which would have never happened in Russia. That's why I moved.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I was never, it was, I was told directly, I would never conduct a big choir with men because I had those.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was pointed at.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But I was persistent. I constantly was asking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, be a part of the audition process? Well, and finally one person, not gonna name any names, just said, "Why don't you understand?
Yeah.
We're close."
Yes, it's real. It's real, and that's what we we face so often here, right here in the States. Like the States aren't separated from that. There has been much work that has happened in the last 20 years to show a variety of representation that's on the stage, but we're still not there as yet. Kind of like with elements that we're battling with in the country, we're still not there as yet. We've gotten better, but we still have such a long way to go. Did you find it easier though when you came from Russia? And I hate using that word easier, but did you find
Yeah, I know what you mean.
access to be
Yeah.
better when you came to the States for opportunities?
I found it amazing, and even after 30 years, it will be 30 years this summer, I still
Wow.
find it's so much better than it is in other places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment in my life when I was a finalist for a Chanticleer job, and as I was going through the process of being a guest music director, I called Simon Carrington because we were at the time, we still are acquainted, of course, and I knew him, and I said, Simon, what would it be like if the King Singers would have a woman director? Because I wanted to know how strange would that be if Chanticleer were to travel with a female music director.
Right.
And he took the longest pause, and he said, very kindly, he said, that would be a very interesting dynamic. But that's not what I'm trying to say. What I also want to say is I said, is there somebody in England I can talk about it? Like, is there a person in England that you can connect me with that I can talk about this dynamic? And he took even a longer pause, and he said, I don't know anybody. So, I think in other countries, I think we should really appreciate the progress that it's already been made here.
Yeah.
And certainly go further. But the world, honestly, has much, much further to go. And I say what I would do if I had more time, I would actually go to other countries and speak about that.
Yes.
Because in Russia, women still, they still don't even want to believe it. And until women believe themselves that they can do it.
Mm-hmm. Period.
Nothing's going to, It's
Period.
not going to happen.
So in Russia, are you seen as a top Russian conductor? Although I'm Russian American, are you just seen like a native of
Oh,
our?
me?
Yes, you.
Oh, no, no.
Really?
First of all, I've been out of the country for a long time, and every time I wanted to come back and actually do some presentations, see, that's the way they are. They don't want anything.
Right,
I
right.
mean, they might invite some German guy to speak about, Bach, St. Matthew's
Yeah,
Passion, but not that they don't want to move forward. And that's so many countries, and that's one thing that I found about American choral choral culture is that how open we are,
yeah,
how open we are to other music, other cultures' music, and exploring this, because it's just such a country that is made of. It's such a wonderful dynamic, so many different nationalities and ethnics, right?
yeah.
Um,
But it's still interesting to me though, Yelena, because I've always felt like, and I have always heard when I started out on the circuit in classical music as a singer, um, so many people used to say, if you really want to make it and you really want to have a name, go across seas, because America does not embrace classical music like they do in Europe and other countries. Have you
correct.
found that to be a reality for you? That still, like, as much as there's a passion for the music and there's an acceptance and there is, a welcoming energy that's here, there's still like, but so far
Yeah.
you can make it. Have you seen that and felt that?
Yeah, and unfortunately, on the West Coast, it's a very different situation altogether, for many reasons. And yes, it's a sad moment. Honestly, I wish there was more appreciation there. I wish there was a deeper connection.
Yeah,
And in some ways, I go back to countries like Russia, and I see that the tradition is really holding them back,
mm,
rather than, I mean, yes. So I go back home, and we have one of the greatest orchestras, and of course our theater is phenomenal. But you go and they play the same things. You see, where
yeah,
is the new music?
yeah, yeah, yeah. They
So
don't.
tradition is like a chain on their legs.
Yeah, yeah. Very steeped into it and afraid of change.
Yeah,
That's just like surface level answering, and will we lose it? I mean, I see that kind of attitude even in spaces that I am newly a part of, that when you're so steeped in tradition, there's this fear that if you actually open yourself up to other aspects of the world of music, that you're going to lose that which was foundational. And you don't lose it. You're adding to it. You're making
yeah.
some things about it even more pronounced. There's more of an appreciation to it, but I think that people just see it as a curse rather than a blessing, to be stretched into other areas of their walk. I find it interesting that you're over there on the West Coast and classical music, you got mainly like hip hop and all of the film industry over there. And then over here where we are on the East Coast, like, it's so accessible with
Yeah,
classical music. What are
yeah.
you doing to like bust through those doors and the ceilings so that the exposure is even more heightened over on the West Coast?
What do I do? Well, there are two groups that I work with here every week, and one is my Cantabile Youth Singers, which is an organization for youth, and we start in first grade and we go all the way through 12th grade. And my son just last year graduated after 14 years. Poor kid, 14 years he sang since he was 4 years old. because that's when I started my prep division for him, because I had to take him with me to my work, and and then might as well have him feeling.
Great. I wish I had thought of doing stuff like that. That was a great idea.
Yeah. We used to start from something like second grade, and for him, I lowered it to pre-K.
So, do you still have it as pre-K?
No, we lost it during the pandemic, and we just started at first grade, but we might bring kindergartners back.
Wow. And how many singers do you have there? How many singers?
Well, right now we are 170, but we, at the height of our, but before the pandemic, we were 300.
Wow. So do you have a staff of people who are handling all 300? Do you have, other directors?
We used to have a staff of 3 artistic and 3 admin. But we are now down to 2, 1 administrative and one artistic. So, and then of course there are part-timers, but if anybody wants to move to Silicon Valley, I have a full-time job opening.
Well, you know what? Let's make sure that we are putting out that information as well and posting it. You never know. Like, there are some people who I just think, I'm quite envious of, that they can just get up and they're free spirits, like, hey, I'm gonna move over to. So you never know. There might be some free-spirited people who are watching this right now and have always thought about going out to California, and boom, here we are with an opportunity to do so. Do you all have like touring schedules? Are you planning?
Yeah.
So where are you going this upcoming?
Oh my gosh! So the trip that was supposed to happen in 2020, God bless that year, was actually was supposed to be the top experience for my choir, because we were actually chosen to go to the World Choral Symposium in New Zealand. Yeah, so it was supposed to be one of 24 choirs and one of only 3 choirs from the United States, and only one of 5 of youth choirs. It was just an incredible opportunity to be chosen. Before that, the year before, we competed at the what was it called? European Grand Prix by Interculture, and we won very nicely there, gold medal, highest level. So I introduced competitions in 2016. Even though I never before believed in it, but I became I entered the judging circle in 2015, and on the international level, and I started going to different countries to be a judge for a company, wonderful organization called Interculture, that organizes competitions and festivals all over the world. And being a judge, I realized how educationally and communally their system of judging is really good. Like it's at the same time you have to be incredibly precise in what you're doing, and you have to sing music of the really highest level, also on the very highest artistic and presentational level. But on the other hand, there is so much nurturing going on through the competition, and there's so many different levels on which you can participate, that I thought, yes, I can do this. Because yes, it is subjective to receive a top medal, but it's also, there is so much opportunity to expose the kids to other kids who are really, going for, I don't say going for gold, but they're going for experience when they give music and their performance, their absolute everything.
Yeah.
For them to see this.
Say going for gold, because that is the reality, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I was talking to another female conductor quite some time ago, about a year ago, and her students were a part of a competition, and the whole entire thing of being a part of the competition that she was trying to get into their minds is, we're attempting to win, and there's nothing wrong with winning.
Yes.
We're going for the goal. I think it's the perceptions of what happens, but there's a process that has to take place in order for you to become what they look at as the goal, the best. Yeah, but we're attempting to be number one or to get that first place.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with doing that as long as it's balanced. I would only assume that that's maybe why you didn't like competitions before that, or why didn't you like the idea of competitions?
Why didn't I like the idea of competitions? Maybe, I don't know, maybe because as a kid I never competed. I don't know.
Mm,
Maybe because interpretation to me is so much of an individual thing. But
yeah.
then the reason I changed my opinion is because I realized that in this country, youth choirs are considered such a, oh, how cute kind of situation.
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes.
how cute, and and only parents are going to those concerts. But then when I was growing up in Russia, the St. Petersburg radio children's radio choir was right there on every stage. There was some other phenomenal, and nobody's ever said to us, well, you're just kids. Nobody ever said that.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is how this is the best way you perform. And maybe that was a little bit rough too, because the conductor would sometimes scream at us when we laugh, and the children are laughing, and he was like, children are not here to laugh, they're here to work.
Sorry, I'm with the conductor. I'm like, we got work to do. We've got.
Yes. And so I was when I started working with Cantabile, and that was also such an incredible moment. Maybe I should tell you about this. So
Yes.
I was director of choral activities at San Jose State University. I was perfectly on my path, which I chose for myself when I decided to move to the States, which was to build a career in academia. My first teaching position was at Western Michigan University, and then I was for 8 years at San Jose State, a wonderful, wonderful program that Charlene Archibek built to, incredibly for 35 years before I was there. And then, long behold, I got pregnant with my son.
Ta-da.
Ta-da!
Right.
It wasn't a surprise, but it did happen. All of a sudden, my world started to turn.
Yes.
Like this ambition to go for the career was starting to kind of falter. And one day, I was 8 months pregnant, and I will never forget that moment. I was sitting with my legs on my office table, my office desk, and leaning back like this because my belly was this big. And I got a call in my office, and the call was exactly this is what they said. Ms. Sharkova, do you by chance have any advanced talented graduate students who would like to audition for a youth choir position, artistic director? And I don't know what made me say this, but I said exactly this. I am interested myself.
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Something in my belly decided that I should be now working with the children, which I had never done in this country. And now I find myself just, as they say, I found my passion, and with my passion there came a purpose.
Yes. 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 I always tell people, pursue your purpose, and then the provisions always follow, because it's all about what we are here to do. What have we been sent to do that brings us peace and joy? And that's what it sounds like when you said that, all of a sudden in that moment, and then it was like the aha of, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I think it was your son speaking to you.
Must be. And of course, but that was an amazing moment, because I started with Cantabile. It was very part-time in the beginning. And then, of course, with my, I was creating, I was actually creating something that I came from. And that is this very, very, very strong education for children. So I was trying to create the Russian model of teaching kids music that I came from, which was complete, because my 8 hours a week as a music student at the age of 8 were 2 hours of choir twice a week, 1 hour of solfege, 1 hour of ear training, 1 hour of music, 2 hours of music history, and 2 hours of piano. And so, you would never play a minuet without knowing how to dance a minuet, because
Wow.
how can you play it?
Yeah.
It was needed to be danced. You see, when I remember it even at school. We had a partner when we were dancing that minuet, and I will never forget that boy. He would, do this and then take my hand to dance the minuet. But I had to learn how to dance the minuet. So I would take his snotty hand.
We didn't understand COVID then, and we should have.
No, we did not understand COVID. But this unfortunately still it's something that I try to do every single day. And just yesterday I had a rehearsal, and we were rehearsing Holst, the Rig Veda, Holst, hymns to Rig Veda. And isn't that incredible? Here is this composer writing music in 1920s in England, but he is fascinated by this body of poetry that comes from India. And so East meets West. That's my concert this year.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and then we're doing Bollywood music. We're doing music from Southeast Asia and Tamil and everything. And I just gotta go to these kids, and I get very passionate and maybe just a little bit crazy. And I go, how aren't you completely blown up by this? And look that he sings Rig Veda, but instead of giving us a raga in his music, he gives us a whole tone scale that was created just a few years in Russia by Rimsky-Korsakov. And they're like sitting there and going, I just
what is happening,
lady? But I said, I cannot teach you any other way. Music is a window through which you see culture and history, and through which you connect to the world. If you don't want that, if you just want to have a bunch of super, super smart kids who are sitting in the room and making chords, I'm not going to be a part of it, because that's not what music is to me.
Yeah.
So it was a little rough.
Oh, no, that's okay. And rough is good, because you're impacting their lives, whether or not, how it is as an educator. If we don't get the opportunity to see the fruits of our labor right then and there, it will come back. It always does. They come back and they said, you know what, Miss Sharkova, I remember when you went crazy as you were trying to tell us about the beauty of East meets West. And we're here with this school. Like, they absolutely will. And here it is that you are teaching something that it feels like all of a sudden the world, the arts world, the music world is attempting to be, the education sector is attempting to be more sensitive to, that we do all the time, but you really are doing it. Diversity and inclusion inside your program, and teaching these young people, that there are walls that go beyond their four, that, you got to break those things down to bring in this whole beautiful creation, this whole beautiful world. I think that is powerful. And, continue.
Yeah. Thank you very much for saying this. But some days when I go to the wonderful Miami to work with Seraphic Fire, and you just give them music that hour and a half of music, and they just pick it up and they sing it so beautifully, and they will hear to everything you want to say, because so that is the blessing that I have for sure. That I have my youth choir, which fulfills that incredible fire in education for me, for education, right? And then I have my symphony chorus, where I get to work with the orchestra. I prepare the chorus for conductors that come from all over the world. But once a year I conduct the symphony orchestra, and of course it's always a huge stretch for me, because I don't work with orchestras enough. I don't have time. It's you
Right.
know, you kind of
Right.
have to dedicate yourself to. But I
Absolutely.
do, I'm doing a concert that I'm very excited about, and it's Rafe Warner Williams, two big large pieces, and then I'm doing a West Coast premiere of Jake Runestad, Into the Light. It's a fantastic composition.
Okay.
Yeah, and then also Holst again, and Tarika Regan, another composer that I love, really really love. And then doing the international conducting, of course, it's really really great fun.
That's just
But
it.
having that combination of different things is really what makes me excited. That
Yeah,
I
and
touch so many
fulfilled.
different levels.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I liken it to this. I grew up in the church,
Mhm.
and so I find myself at times wanting to just go to church and to not be participatory, but everybody in the music department, once they know that you're a musician, they want to pull you in. But I'm also going with the purpose of I want to feel fulfilled. And that's why I don't want to necessarily be working. I just want this to be
Yeah.
so being able to go to a space where I can do both. I mean, that's a complete like blessing to me. Like I can be spiritually nurtured at the same time that even when I'm working in music, the music is still feeding me as well, and I'm giving back as well. I mean, it just all, molds together. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. You can't get any better, you know. Those two things are fantastic. I wanted to also ask you though, Yelena, I always talk to the young people about being an artist and making sure that the purpose that you have does not just get served in the music field. I feel like we as artists have a very specific responsibility that when things in the world take place, that we put a call to it, that we put an answer in whatever level it is, from baseline to success to the upper echelons of success. You are from Russia, and here it is that you're living in America and a Russian American, and you are seeing this disjointed relationship between Russia and the United States. And then it's at one point in time in the 80s, it was something that went crazy. And then now, as we're in 2000, it's something else that has come up. What do you feel that you need to do, are called to do, motivated to do as an artist, but also one who comes from the country to find ways to help bridge an understanding? Even if that's wild in its idealistic, coming out at you and me describing it to you, but I truly believe that it takes a spark to make a fire and that you could be called to be the spark.
Well, gosh, before last year, before February last year, when the war started, I always wanted to bring my choirs, and I did both of my choirs to Russia.
Mhm.
And to me, music is still the best bridge, putting people, of Russians and Americans on the same stage and having them sing each other's songs. And what can be better? But it's the thing is, choral people, I don't think ever had any problem understanding each other.
Hmm.
It's perhaps the ones who are coming to sing, to excuse me, to attend the concert, and they're seeing such wonderful collaboration between two cultures. They're touched, and certain things start to maybe shift in their appreciation, and understanding. But I'll be honest with you, I have never been in a bigger shock in my life to when I see what's happening to my country. And it's a combination of shock and guilt and just depression. I mean, honestly, it's one of the worst possible situations is to sit here in my new country. I am an American citizen, and see the country of my birth destroying another nation while also committing a suicide, practically.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as they say sometime in Russia, when cannons speak, the muses are silent. And I found my muse for 6 months to be so flat and dead. Yeah. One of the things that I could not do for quite a while, or I did it, but I didn't feel it. I just talking to the kids about what music can do. Yes, that was very rough, because you have to be an idealist. And I tell them, if you come into the room and I am, jumping with joy, describing something to you where music changed the situation, music changed the world, right? When I talk to you about this wonderful movie about Nelson Mandela, that's called Freedom in 4-part harmony, right? Where the real changes, or I'm telling you about the situation when Estonians lined up in 1998, lined up this road where the Russian tanks were going from Moscow to Tallinn, and instead of throwing stones, they sang for days, and that revolution was called the Singing Revolution. Yeah. That, exactly, that was powerful. But then I talk to them about Russia, and I say, I feel silent, I feel dead. And that is the truth. Yeah, that is the truth.
What do you think can stir that? Because you also use the word guilt. And so I'm interested in understanding, what level of guilt do you feel in this?
The guilt was, I think it was felt by anyone who left the country in the 90s or whenever. And then immediate thing is, if I stayed, had I stayed, would things would be any different? And then you realized most probably not, right? It's politics, unfortunately, there, despite of the Russian culture is incredible. And how can we have this culture that is so, I don't know, so beautiful, so strong, and yet politics that are just evil?
Yeah, they're right. There's no
shame, and so much shame. My shame for my country was horrible, and guilt for me not being there.
Wow,
that's the guilt.
I wonder, that there are many of us who live here in America who feel the same way about America in its wild senses. And I have traveled abroad many times, and I shared with you that I've been to Russia, and oh my gosh, the words that you mentioned, the strength and the pride that I felt and saw in people who were just just common everyday people, but they took pride in I'm getting dressed, and they were sharp, and and the food, and just the hospitality, like it was absolutely warming and beautiful in there. And I often share with folk all the time, America has its ways as well. There are so many things as a Black woman that I want to see and experience differently in this country, that I too feel like, it's got some beauty to it. And after being in other countries, I wouldn't trade living in America to live somewhere else. That is just my truth. But they still have a long way to go, so that I feel like the government is for me and it's for my people and it's doing things to be present, I too want that. And I sometimes feel like living in a strange land. Like this doesn't feel right. It feels very foreign at times. But then the whole, what do I need to do to be inspired? Where do I go? How do I pull some extra strength? So I ask you the same thing. Where do you go in those moments that you feel like I have no inspiration left? Are there people? Are there places? Are there things? Is there more than the music that you pull on so that you can be refreshed? You're refreshed for yourself and ready to tackle and ready to make some changes and continue building the bridge that needs to be built.
Personally, I am very blessed to have wonderful friends.
Mm-hmm.
Friends to whom I truly can speak. And, some of them are here and some of them are still in Russia, my very old friends. And we support each other. And, a huge support for me is always the nature. I am
Yes.
I am a biker, I mountain bike, and again, blessed to be in California where practically any day in 10 minutes, I am in the mountains.
Yes.
So I have to have that cleansing for sure. I read stupidly too much. I read a lot, stupidly too much. I've all kinds of books, but right now I'm into Dostoevsky again. I don't know.
I don't
Somebody
think
said I'm finding hope in Dostoevsky. But I love spirituality, and again, the one of the things that happened differently for me is that as a child, I was growing up in the country where any spirituality, any religion was practically forbidden. So when I moved here and I had never had religion, and I tried, I went to Israel to see my Jewish roots, and I tried here, but music. I don't know if it's sacrilege to say that music is my religion, but music somehow is that special thing that always keeps me on track.
Yes. Yes.
It is,
Music.
and so I would say it was the first time in my life that I felt no inspiration from music whatsoever. I would go to a concert and I would sit there, and it was so scary. Oh my gosh, to see how many people around me also quit music after COVID. But where do I find the spark? Another thing that I reached in the last couple of years, I just started letting things go. I stopped saying tomorrow it's going to happen, and what if it's not going to? And there is such freedom in sometimes saying maybe that will never come back.
Yeah.
But it's change, it's changed. Change sometimes brings better things. Sometimes things that you thought were better are going to stay in the past. And that released me, released me in so many ways to be more at peace. And that's what we need. We need to be at peace in order to look out and see things that are not peaceful otherwise, and see how our peace and love can be expanded. In the end, it's all, you have to respect and love yourself, and you have to be at peace with yourself.
Yes.
Because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how fast you sway your arms.
That sure doesn't. I've often said this too, more so to my kids, that, when I lay down at night, I have to resign Michelle between Michelle and Creator. For me, that's it. Nobody else. It doesn't matter. That ultimate peace, it has to rest. In music, it wasn't sacrilegious of you to say that it is your religion. I get that, because it's life, it's breath, it is God. It is all encompassing. It is, language and culture and it's race, and it's it's good and it's challenge and no, and it's pure. There's just so much about it that we know not, and yet we have this incredible gift to learn so much more about what it is and does. So I receive that when you say that. What would you share with the young people, with others, um, about the journey of music that you want them to know, for those who are trying to be the maestras and maestros, and they want to be composers or the, the performers or the producers? What would you share with them after all of these years of going through that you said, you need to know this, stick to this, or don't do this?
Um, I would say always seek to be a professional.
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
that will not come from doing something fast, fun, and easy, right? Everything, everything of quality and integrity requires time. And
Yeah,
in music, as it is in anywhere else, um, appreciation, affection, courage, for
yes,
sure, in every day. But seek to be a professional with responsibility and a lot of skill, because there's passion on one hand and there's skill set on the other hand.
that's right.
And once I was doing an all state, and it was sopranos and altos, and they asked me what is the biggest lesson that you have learned as a maestra, and I said, that as a woman and a conductor, and I remember saying that you can have it all,
Mm,
but just not at the same time always.
mhm. Right. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that. You can have
see
it
what's
all.
most important.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's tweetable, and I hope you tweet it.
I don't have a tweeter.
Neither do I. Neither do I. I gave them that up, but maybe someone who is watching and listening, y'all go on ahead and tweet that, and make sure you give Elena Sharkova the credit for that one, because that was great. That was great. I thank
And
you.
may I also just leave this little anecdote
Of
with you?
course.
So this is when my son was really little, maybe 6 years old, and once I walked in, of course late, right, coming home late after the rehearsal,
Mhm.
and I walked in and I started immediately saying something. Oh, why is this there? And he walked up to me and he said, "Give me your baton." And he said, when I gave it to him, he said, "You're no longer conductor.
Ah,
You are now a mom. So this is now a place by the door where your baton going to be always when you walk through this door." So don't
fantastic.
always just separate yourself from your profession.
That's so hard to do. I mean, mothers, you could have retaliated and said, as the mother, I conduct everything around here. It's kind of hard to separate it. Sounds like my sons too. It sounds like my sons. I love that. But did you stick to it? Is the question.
Yeah, there is still a little jar in which all of my
That's
batons now stick.
great. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. That is great. You should take a picture too, and you should post that. That's fantastic. Thank you so very much,
Of
Yelena,
course,
for
that's
being
so my
present. I
pleasure. Thank you
really,
so much for inviting
oh,
me.
absolutely. Tell us before you roll where it is that you will be. Give us what's coming next, something big that's happening for you, that we can be a part of. I know you're way off on the west coast of
Yes.
things, but if you're in this area, how can we look for you? Where will it be?
Well, if you're on the East Coast, you can fly in January, a year from now, to my 5 concerts with Seraphic Fire.
Okay.
Uh, they are around Miami. There are 5 of them: Coral Gables, Miami, and 3 other um, something beach, whatever. The
Uh-huh.
very
Everybody
famous
wants
one.
to go. Miami Beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Come to Miami in January. Hear wonderful music by women composers and inspired by women poets.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, yes. Help to push and promote and keep it relevant and alive, because there's so much great music out there by.
Oh, I forgot. I'm in Carnegie Hall on the 12th of June.
Oh, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. Oh my God. June 12th, the year of 2023. She will
Yes,
be.
June 12th.
Who
Yes.
are you with? Are you bringing your cantabile singers?
No,
Or-
I'm not this time. It's a wonderful organization called Manhattan Concert Productions, MCP. And this is my 6th or 7th appearance with them. They put together wonderful choirs from around the country, and they bring a clinician for 3 days. We rehearse and we perform a concert in Carnegie Hall.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. That is June the 12th, 2023. And that is the way that you can see dear friend Elena Sharkova. All right. Thank you, my friend. Again, I'm always saying this, and I always will, because I never know where conversations are going to flow to. And there's always a whole bunch of things that are running through my head that I would love to share. But what has been shared has been so very powerful and meaningful to me. And it's going to give me much more time to think about even the approach of how I bring more to the music and the expansion of cultures in the music, because these kids deserve to hear and experience it just as much. So continue on the path, good sister, on the good fight, and I will be rooting for you in the process. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Thank you. Take care.